What if a company deliberately destroyed its most beloved product? Not as a mistake. Not due to a miscalculation. But as a strategic choice, backed by 200,000 customer interviews and millions of dollars in research. In 1985, one of the most powerful brands on earth did exactly that. They took their 100-year-old flagship product, a global icon, and threw it away. It became what many now call the single greatest marketing blunder in modern history. But was it? For nearly a century, Coca-Cola was more than a beverage. It was an institution. It was the taste of victory after World War II. It was a symbol of American culture, recognized in every corner of the globe. By the early 1980s, its brand was untouchable. But its business was not. A challenger was rising. Pepsi. With a slick, youth-focused marketing campaign and a simple, devastatingly effective weapon, the Pepsi Challenge. In blind taste tests held in malls and supermarkets across America, a shocking truth was revealed. When stripped of their labels, more people preferred the sweeter taste of Pepsi. For the first time, Coca-Cola was losing. Its market share, once an unassailable fortress, was slowly eroding. The king was vulnerable. Inside the executive suites at Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, a sense of panic began to set in. CEO Roberto Guizwaiter, a man who famously declared there would be no sacred cows under his leadership, approved a secret mission. A project so sensitive it was given a code name, Project Kansas. Its objective? To fundamentally change the taste of Coca-Cola. So how did a company built on tradition, armed with overwhelming data, make a decision that would provoke a national outrage? Why would they risk a multi-billion-dollar empire to fix a formula that millions didn't even think was broken? That's the question we're answering today. To understand the new Coke decision, you have to understand the pressure cooker of the cola wars. For decades, Coke had dominated. They didn't just sell a drink, they sold an idea. An abstract concept of happiness, nostalgia, and tradition. Pepsi, on the other hand, sold a product. Their strategy was direct and aggressive. The Pepsi Challenge wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was a direct assault on Coke's core identity. The tagline, "Let your taste decide," was brilliant. It reframed the entire debate from a battle of brands to a battle of taste. And on that battlefield, Pepsi was winning. This created a deep institutional anxiety at Coca-Cola. The executives, engineers, and marketers were rational people. They saw the data. They saw the declining market share. They saw the results of the Pepsi Challenge. And they came to a logical conclusion: their product was the problem. They believed they had a taste problem. Not a perception problem. Not a marketing problem. A taste problem. This was their critical blind spot. They fixated on the only metric their competitor was using, the sip test. In their minds, if they could just create a product that beat Pepsi in a blind taste test, they would win the war. This led directly to Project Kansas. The goal was simple: engineer a new formula that was smoother, sweeter, and scientifically superior. A formula that nobody could deny was better tasting. Project Kansas was one of the most exhaustive research and development efforts in corporate history. It cost a reported $4 million, a massive sum in the mid-1980s. Over 2 years, Coke scientists developed a new formula. Then, they tested it. Relentlessly. They conducted nearly 200,000 blind taste tests across the United States. The results were unambiguous and overwhelming. The new formula consistently beat Pepsi. It even beat the original Coca-Cola by a significant margin. In head-to-head sip tests, consumers preferred the new, sweeter flavor by a margin of 55 to 45 over the old formula. When asked if they would buy the new product, the numbers were even stronger. The data seemed bulletproof. It told a clear story: people preferred the new taste. The executive team, led by Guizwaiter, felt they had found their silver bullet. They had a product that could not only stop the bleeding but reclaim their dominance over Pepsi. But there was a fatal flaw hidden within their mountain of data. A question they never thought to ask. In all their testing, they asked people which liquid they preferred in an anonymous cup. They never asked, how would you feel if we took away your Coca-Cola forever and replaced it with this? The research measured taste preference. It completely failed to measure the emotional bond, the cultural significance, and the brand loyalty that had been built over a century. They had data on the product, but zero data on the brand's soul. On April 23, 1985, Coca-Cola held a massive press conference in New York City. With great fanfare, they announced the unthinkable. The original formula for Coke, a secret kept in a vault for 99 years, was being retired. In its place would be a new, improved taste, New Coke. The company's president, Donald Keogh, confidently declared, "It is the surest move the company has ever made." They were wrong. The public reaction was not just negative, it was immediate, visceral, and furious. It was a national event. The company's headquarters was flooded with over 40,000 angry letters and phone calls. People talked about it like a death in the family. They felt betrayed. Protest groups formed, like the Old Cola Drinkers of America, which lobbied for the return of the original formula. People began hoarding cases of old Coke, selling them on the black market for inflated prices. A psychiatrist whom Coke had hired to listen in on calls to its hotline told executives that some callers sounded as if they were discussing the death of a family member. The media narrative, initially neutral, quickly turned against the company. Coke was portrayed as an arrogant, out-of-touch corporation that had tampered with a piece of American heritage. The backlash wasn't just about a soft drink. It was about identity. Coca-Cola had spent a century telling people this drink was a part of their lives, a constant in a changing world. Then, they took it away. Pepsi, smelling blood in the water, pounced. They ran ads declaring victory in the cola wars, mocking Coke's epic miscalculation. The executives in Atlanta were stunned. Their perfect data had led them to a public relations catastrophe. They had won the battle of the sip test but were now losing a full-scale cultural war. And that's the secret. The fundamental, catastrophic error was in the question they were trying to answer. Coca-Cola's leadership thought they were in the business of selling flavored sugar water. They analyzed the problem like chemists. They saw a product with a specific taste profile that was losing to a competitor's taste profile. So, they changed the chemistry. But they were wrong. They weren't in the business of selling a beverage. They were in the business of selling an emotion. A memory. A constant. The 200,000 people in their taste tests gave them the right answer to the wrong question. Yes, in a single, anonymous sip, the sweeter formula was more appealing. It provided a more immediate neurological hit. But nobody consumes a brand in a single, anonymous sip. We consume it over a lifetime. Coca-Cola wasn't a product you chose. It was a part of who you were. It was the drink at your family barbecue. The logo at the movies. The taste you associated with summer. By killing the original formula, they weren't just discontinuing a product, they were erasing a piece of their customers' past. The backlash wasn't logical. It was emotional. And no amount of data on taste preference could have ever predicted the depth of that emotional connection. The failure of New Coke was the moment Coca-Cola learned it was not a product company. It was a brand company. And its brand was its single most valuable asset. If you feel like you just had an aha moment about the difference between a product and a brand, take a second to hit the like button and subscribe for more breakdowns like this one. It helps us know what strategies you want to see unlocked. The story doesn't end in disaster. In fact, what happened next turned this colossal failure into an accidental marketing masterstroke. On July 11, 1985, just 79 days after the launch of New Coke, the company capitulated. In another press conference, they announced the return of the original formula, rebranded as Coca-Cola Classic. The news was met with national celebration. It was the lead story on virtually every major news network. When Coca-Cola Classic returned to shelves, sales didn't just recover, they exploded. Sales of Coca-Cola were suddenly growing at more than twice the rate of Pepsi, far outpacing the growth before the formula change. The debacle of New Coke ultimately reminded the world, and more importantly, reminded Coca-Cola itself, just how much people loved the original. The company had lost millions of dollars and taken a massive reputational hit, but in the process, it had inadvertently created the single greatest advertisement for its core product in history. It reaffirmed a century of brand loyalty in just under 3 months. The ultimate lesson of New Coke is a cornerstone of modern business strategy. Listen to what your customers mean, not just what they say. Data can tell you what people prefer, but it can't always tell you what they value. The most powerful brands in the world aren't just built on superior products. They are built on a deep, emotional connection that transcends logic and spreadsheets. Coca-Cola had that connection, took it for granted, and nearly lost everything. In the end, their failure became their greatest lesson. If you learned something new, hit the like button and subscribe for more strategy breakdowns. And let us know in the comments, what company's strategy should we unlock next?